All right. I think we're live. Can you say something just so I can hear your audio?
Survey says.
Survey says. Oh, my
Are we
voice is way too
live?
loud. Okay, there you go. Say something again. Can you say something again?
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. Great.
I'm going to mute all of the streams.
Everyone is talking.
Everyone.
Yeah. All
Great.
right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cantata modding stream number 3. Oop, 3. That's 6.
Six.
Thank you all for joining us for this stream. We're excited to have everyone here. People are still filing in the proverbial doors of the internet stream. So thank you all for joining us. I'm Kyle Cookstow. Work at After School. We're working on Cantata. And I'm joined by...
I'm Rogue Fong. I am a developer here at After School working on Cantata. Very excited
Yes. And
for
for those
for
of you who
today,
are just...
specifically for the next one as well.
Yeah, the next one is this one. So this video, I guess we'll talk a little bit about Cantata first for people who don't know. Cantata is a character-driven tactical strategy game inspired by games like Advance Wars and Civilization. It's the store page is live on Steam right now, so if you're interested in Cantata, go here. You might actually be, we're streaming ourselves on Steam right now, so you might actually already be on the Steam page. Any wish listing of the game is super helpful. It helps people find out about the game, but also if you want to find more, we have a lot of links on the Steam page. So Cantata is a character-driven tactical strategy game. In it, you play as one of 3 different factions, exploring, expanding, and enduring this alien planet. And in this video, in this series of videos, what we've been talking about is modding Cantata. So not only is Cantata this sort of tactical strategy game with like supply lines and stuff, like you can sort of think of it like almost like turn-based Factorio a little bit. It's got some automation stuff. But on top of that system, we've actually built the whole game to be moddable. So we're not showing people a ton of the stuff in the game itself yet. So if you're really itching to have that stuff, we'll have those things a little bit later. But for these series of streams, what we've been doing is we've been showing people how easy it is to make your own stuff for Cantata. We really love and enjoy the like weird spiritual sci-fi stuff we've got going on in the game. But we know that like other people, easy modding, might want to use the systems that we built to make their own game. You can almost think of it even like a RPG maker for strategy games is sort of how we think about it. So what we're trying to do is show people through this series of streams like what you can do with the modding tools that everyone will have access to. And not only that, but the tools that everyone has access to are literally the same tools that we're using to build the game. So it's not like we have some separate set of stuff that we get to use that's like special. You get everything that we get. So anything that you'll see in the game, I think without exception, there might be a few things that you won't get, but most everything will be available for you to use. So the point of this stream series is to show you how to do this stuff. So the past 2 streams we've done were about modding terrains. So we did 2 streams. The first one dedicated to kind of slicing up and importing terrains. So we posted these on our YouTube channel. If you want to catch up on those, feel free to watch them. One of them is about importing terrains, and the second one, map mechanics, is specifically about like the actual mechanics of the terrains themselves. So vision costs, fog of war, movement costs, etc. That stuff's all available. Then if you watch that stuff, we also have our forum. So forums.cantatagame.com. Come here, talk about Cantata, talk about the modding videos we post, ask us questions. We're like always watching the forum. It's like, it's still getting set up. I see there's a lot of lurkers on the forum. So if you guys want to join, make a topic, respond to stuff, that's totally fine. No one will bite. It'll be okay.
Yeah, and the entire team is checking in. I'm on this forums looking for stuff, so I'd love to hear from you guys. Yeah, we're friendly.
We're
We
friendly, we
really don't
promise.
bite.
We won't bite. Okay, but let's get into this series. So like I said, the series is the idea of the series. We've called it Making a Medieval Mod because the idea is that we're building a medieval mod for Cantata basically from scratch, starting with sort of nothing and moving through to hopefully have a game that feels like a turn-based medieval game, which is very much not what Cantata, the game is. So we've talked about terrains for the first 2 videos, but now we're going to be talking about units. So this is like the biggest question we get to. Everyone is interested in doing custom units. Everyone wants to know how to do like custom buildings, etc. That stuff is totally possible, and we will talk to you about that today.
Yeah, and please post questions whenever you have them because I'm monitoring the chat. Kyle's monitoring the chat as well, and we just want to hear from you guys.
Yeah. And yeah, so the goal is basically hear from people what they want to see in part of the series, but also as part of it, sort of use modding as a way to talk about how stuff in Cantata works generally, because the systems themselves are sort of transferable across mods. So once you sort of understand the notion of weights and capacities, you can apply that to other mods and stuff. So and the game itself. But yeah, so any questions you have, definitely hit us up with them. Otherwise, let's get started. So first step is we need some sprites. So actually, I'll open up Cantata first just to preface this a little bit. So last time we imported some custom medieval mods. Custom medieval terrains. And what that stuff is oops, here we go. Sorry, my computer's just waking up. We imported sprites that allowed us to make the sort of medieval map. So I'm actually going to delete these. Boop, boop. So we imported these sprites that allowed us to build this like fun, weird sort of isometric house thing. There is some other Cantata stuff mixed in, like these trees are from the actual sprite sheets in the game. But generally, most of the stuff that you're seeing here was a custom mod that we made. The way that stuff is imported is that inside of our modding tool, which I will pull up now because I forgot to open it. Oops. Go away, Dingy. You're part of another stream. I'll pull it up over here. So we actually built, oh, it's already open. We built our own mod, here. And in this medieval file, this is what all the modding people have, or if you want to mod the game, you'll basically have access to this tool. So here we just authored these terrains, imported them in, and then we were able to, from that perspective, basically bring in those custom terrains into the game. So once those are imported, it's literally just like almost as easy as drag and drop and change some data fields, and then that stuff is in the game. Units are like about as easy, which I know is sort of hard to fathom potentially, but it is something that we've really strived to do to make it so that it's very easy for anyone to import their own units without having to know how to code or like any stuff like that. I need to change something in the mod file real quick, Rogue, if you want to say anything about the terrain stuff or about what we're going to do for units.
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing here in that, basically it's a spreadsheet configuration of the game, which is how I am doing all of my testing of the systems that we are currently building. And there's just so many things that we're going to be adding. Can't wait to talk about them, but there's already so much to talk about now. Pretty much everything is configured by numbers or some drop downs that you'll see. It's going to be really easy and pretty much infinite. Every system is pretty emergent in what you're going to be able to do with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've seen that with the capacities and the weights and the movement costs, and we'll see some more with supply types, and so we have an inventory system that's cooking.
So much stuff.
So much stuff.
Yeah. So I think, so basically what we're going to try to do this stream is show you how to get units in the game. So in the game itself, right, we ship with some number of just regular units. I guess it's not really spoilers down here, but we have like units, right, that you can place, and then those units can move around, etc. These units are all part of sort of the Cantata set. I almost think of it like play sets. Like it's almost like you have a board game and you're buying expansions. I think of mods sort of as like expansions to the base game, but that they can also just like get rid of all the base parts. So we provide our little core, which is like, here's all the Cantata stuff. But if you want your own play set, you can like build your own play set. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this unit. And what we want to do is we want to actually bring in to this like mod here. We want to bring in some of our own custom units that we could work with. So There's a few different ways to do that, but step one is like find some art. So we need to actually find art. We could, if we were like great pixel artists, which I don't think neither Rogue nor I are great artists. We could like make our own. But rest assured, if you are not an artist, you can still mod and bring stuff in. So we're going to show you kind of how to do that. So what we've done before we started the stream is I actually went and found some assets. So one thing that you might encounter with when you're working with mods, especially for an isometric game, is that, like the people's ways of doing different types of art can be like different because, different artists, but also that sometimes the format that Cantata needs, or like sort of the way isometric perspective works, means that not every art asset will be like fully compatible. Like all of our art, just like going back to this going back to this mod here, if I load it in, you can see that all of our art for like our interactables and stuff all sort of faces the right direction. They'll move properly isometrically, but that's because we designed it for Cantata. So if you're pulling in other art that's not been explicitly designed for this thing, it might be a little weird, and we'll see that here. But also that to say, like, that doesn't mean that you can't not use that art. So we're actually going to go a little bit outside of making like nice isometric stuff and pull in some art that like kind of works. That will look sort of weird, but it will hopefully show you that you can kind of bring in anything into the game as long as you work with that format.
Does that mean we're pulling in some orthogonal artwork?
Yes, or I guess it'd be kind of orthogonal. Yeah. So we downloaded this Heroic Assets series hero pack from I Know King Rabbit, this user on itch.io. So we literally just looked for like, fantasy medieval sprites and pulled this stuff in. I've downloaded them. I did pay for them. And what we're going to do is we're going to just open these sprite sheets up and figure out how to get these into Cantata. So I'm going to do one other thing. I'm going to open up a sprite here. And then I'm going to open up, I'm actually going to go to my mod folder. So inside of Cantata here, in the install directory, you'll have a mods directory. I have my medieval file here. I'm going to open up this, debug. So I've got this template here, and I'm going to also in here make a new folder. I'm just going to call this medieval. Okay, so now I'm going to open up my image here. Mods, data, art, interactables, medieval. Boop. Okay, and we have this here. So before I pull in the art, actually I'll pull in I don't know, should I talk about this format first, or should I talk about the art a little bit?
I think we should maybe throw them side by side.
We can do that.
What a concept.
So yeah, let's go to the art we downloaded. So I'm gonna go here, downloads. Oh, I think I actually already opened it in a folder somewhere, and I've lost it.
And it's gone.
Okay, so here is our folder that we downloaded of this art. And I'm gonna look in, I guess, Hero Pack. Oh, there's an atlas. It shows everything. So let's go for necromancers. That sounds fun.
I'm down.
Female
I'm down.
necromancers. Oh, your necromancer sprite atlas. Oops.
Looks like me.
It looks like you. I forgot your name is
Yes.
Necromancer. Yeah, that seems, we should do that, obviously, then. So you can see first here, these sprites, these are actually not 64 by 64. So these are actually even smaller than our format. So what we're going to do is we'll import these, and then we'll scale them, basically, to sort of make them bigger. I think that could be a good one to start with. Let's see what else we have. There's necromancers.
Yeah.
Oh, Inferno. Is a person.
Ooh. I want to see what. Who is she?
Oh, it's like a devil. Who is she? Let's do the necromancer.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got
Necromancer.
a nice little
little fun icons too. If we wanted to like pull in, unit icons.
Nice.
Necromancer Sprite Atlas. Okay. Oh, is that the Atlas? And these are... Oh, they've got them split up. That's sort of nice. Oh, cool. Okay, this is a great asset pack. So when you're downloading assets from the internet, especially, it can be like hard sometimes to figure out. Like, there's no standard way to like deliver a sprite asset to like the world. So people do all sorts of crazy things. Like it could be anything from people just provide a single image with like, 60 sprites on it, whatever. This person is a professional and they actually delivered a folder that's got like all of the, not only do they have the sprite atlas. So a sprite atlas is sort of a collection of sprites together all on the same sheet. They've also gone and delivered individual sprites as well as the animations grouped together, which is like really nice. I didn't even know that. So it'll make working with this a little bit easier. If you want, that doesn't mean that you need this to work with him in Cantata. If you've got a sprite atlas, you could easily just sort of slice it up. I might just use these because it seems like it'll be a little bit easier to pull them in. So let's go here. So I've got my template open. I'm actually going to duplicate this template. So if I go back to my folder here, mods, data, art, interactables.
I do think it's a nice dog / horse.
I think I just deleted something. Oops.
I can't wait to see what it's going to look like scaled up.
Necromancer rogue. Okay, so I'm going to open up that now.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a skeleton.
Yeah.
It's got kind of a pale pallid
skeleton.
pallor.
Could be something. So, okay, so we got this here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull these sprites in to fit this format. And so so what we're looking at on the right side of the screen right now, this thing over here, this is sort of the sprite format that Cantata expects. You can't just give Cantata some arbitrary sprite sheet and it just sort of like know what to do. We have a pretty strict format, and what that allows us to do is that as long as you put your sprites in this format, things will work. And I can actually show you that before we even pull sprites in. So if we go back to Cantata here, you can see that I've got this debug interactable. And if I look at this over in my mod files here, you can see that the sprite sheet for this is literally that debug sprite sheet. So that's literally the sprite sheet. And you'll see now when I place it on the map. So what it's doing is it's looping through the right animations for that thing. So it's literally a template, right? So what this is saying right now is this is idle, and then it's looping through sprites 1, 2, 3, and 4 sort of consistently. I'm just gonna save this as like demo. I guess I can just save this as medieval.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna pop out and reload this. Dun, dun, dun. And if I go to actually play on this map, so this thing I can see has the ability to move, and then when I click here to move it, it will change its sprite to say move 1, 2, 3, 4, move north 1, 2, 3, 4, just like that. So, and same thing if I I think this is with the move and attack situation.
Yeah.
So basically we're looping through this template. So as long as your sprites are in those specific places in the template sprite sheet, it will work with the moving attacking system, all that stuff. So I'm going to come back here. And so what we're going to do now is pull in these sprites that we downloaded, and we're going to basically put them on the sprite sheet, and then we'll make a new interactable that uses those sprites.
Yeah. Why don't we just cover the letters and the numbers right now? And also worth noting the cardinal directions that we're using.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah. So yeah, right here we have what I is idle, and you can see that there's 2 rows and there's 16 tiles. We have north, south, east, and west. So we operate on a cardinal direction system, and we refer to things as north, which is kind of upper right.
Yeah, open up the map.
And then south, yeah. So north is upper right tile, south is lower left, and then from there you have east, which is lower right. Maybe you can move down to that wood
Yeah.
pathway.
So north, like the rogue was saying,
Yeah.
this is north, this is south,
Hmm.
east is over here, west is over here.
Yep. Nice. And then M we've seen is move, and then A is attack. It's pretty simple. I'm actually not sure what the C is.
Ooh, the C is so we're doing something in the game where most everything uses the top idle positions. So, and if you think about it, there's 4 entries for each idle because the sprite itself might be oriented a different direction for different things. So moving sort of makes sense. You move in different directions, but it's also possible that after moving, the sprite itself changes where it's sort of standing still or idling. Attacking is sort of similar. If you're attacking something in one direction, you want to attack that direction, and then other directions have their own attacking facing directions. These last ones, the C stands for custom. So this isn't really implemented yet, but the idea is that we will give you the ability to tie in custom animations to cut more custom things. We'll talk about what the sort of things would be when we talk more about interactable mechanics with sort of projects and stuff, which you guys probably don't know anything about, but is very exciting to talk about. But the idea though is that we're kind of giving you extra space in the sprite sheet where you can assign your own arbitrary animation to a random project probably or something else. It's technically like we could even make it where, imagine you have some sort of thing that just is stationary on the map and doesn't attack or whatever, but does all these other things. It might even be the case that you could just put whatever in these other animations. But if you wanted to make it where, on the attack animation, do idle south 1, 2, 3, and 4, you can just assign that. And then you can sort of override the sprite sheet itself generally. Which actually, one thing, also we have a question in the chat, which I'll answer in a second. But one thing I do want to drive home is that in Cantata, what's really important to understand is that anything that's on the map, we call an interactable. And so things like units and buildings, we both just consider interactables. Because the thing is that in Cantata, even from the modding perspective, there's no difference between a building and a unit. The only difference is that like the unit itself has the ability to move, whatever, and that's set inside the data. So everything we're talking about here is relevant not just to units, but also to buildings and like whatever other stuff you want to make for the game. So it's not like if you want to make a building, there's some other process. You can even sort of look inside this core CMod file where this is all of our core data. Everything is just called an interactable. That's everything from units like the Shotar to stationary stuff like buildings and whatever else. So all of this stuff that we're talking about is relevant for basically any sort of thing on the game that you want to like play with, so to speak. Moving, attacking, projects, whatever. That stuff is all part of this system. Paul Myers in the chat asks, do you allow users to mirror sprites on north, west, south, and east? We don't do that right now. And the main reason for that is because due to the isometric perspective, things are not necessarily symmetrical along those same axes. So for like north and west, our north heading is actually, I'll just show you an actual sprite sheet. So if we look at like, that's a bad example. Let me pull up something that's bigger so you can see it better. So I'm going to pull up, we'll just pull up, this tank is decent. So here's this tank sprite sheet. So these directions right here, this is north. Oops, weird. I'm just going to make sure I don't save this. This is
right.
north, right? And then west is here, this direction. So these sprites, I see what you're saying. You can mirror them along those same axes. Maybe we should actually do that. Sorry, I was confused with what you were asking. Because you could just mirror the opposite direction. Some stuff though is like not symmetrical. Like So that was maybe a bad example to bring up, but
Maybe it's a character with
like a gun,
like a gun or a
like the
cape or
Anusaya, or the executive could be good, or the Anusaya, yeah. So like this person is holding, I guess this is their north, this direction, and their west is over here. So it would kind of maybe work. I don't know. Maybe we should add it. We could totally look at doing something like that, because then that would make the sprite sheets be sort of simpler. Because I think that basically what we ultimately want to happen is that, like, you have essentially, if you look at this template, you've got each row is 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, sorry. Each row is 2 times 8 is 16, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. So you basically have 16 unique animations that we provide a template for you to work inside of. But if you want to like mix and match those somehow, I think you can do that. Adding mirror would be really interesting. I think we'd have to sort of add some other stuff, which we'll talk about in the import step, for how the game knows to mirror those two things. So yeah, I don't know. That's a great suggestion though. I'm sorry for misunderstanding your question to start. Do you want to add anything, Rogue, or you want to?
No, I think that's good. We could always get away with it right now if just by mirroring in a
Yeah, you could
sprite.
just mirror it in a sprite or
Yeah,
something. I think the
that's how we could
nice
get
thing would be that you
away with
could
it now.
eliminate additional frames. It's like packing as much stuff as you need to.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that we could show you how to add that, or we could show you how we would add that inside of the modding tool, where it would just be like, oh, these are mirrored, so it would know to pull from a certain thing versus another thing. Oh yeah, Paul Myers responds. Do you want to read it? Sorry, I'll make the
Yeah,
sprites
so
going.
Project Triangle Strategy has very asymmetric sprites, but blatantly mirrors them on those axes. My game is sprite, but more of a top-down Zelda view, so I'm forced to make it north, south, and mirror east-west.
Yeah. Yeah, I think some games just say like whatever. They just mirror them and they're like, it's I don't know, it's just sort of.
That's
So
what you get.
I think especially one thing that would be nice about doing a sort of mirror situation to cut out sprites is that it reduces the load on the modder. So I think this is also one of these things where like Paul, if you want to start modding for the game, go ahead. We'll totally give you a build and make stuff, and it's sort of up to the people who are making it, like, if that is necessary or that's sort of a necessary feature. I think that our pixel artist, even for some of those northwest directions, I think he literally just mirrors them and just puts them in the sprite sheet without having to think about it. So, yeah, I don't know. maybe it's
Yeah.
already
It might work
happening.
for half the cases. It might work for more.
Yeah. All right, so let's start pulling some sprites in here. So we know that this is idle north because it says idle north here. So this says female. So let's see what we have first. We've got female down, left, left down. Oh, there is sort of an isometric-y.
Huh.
So left down, I guess, is sort of, it's 8 directions. So that maps left down would be our south, I think.
Yeah.
Let me pull up paint. So we got to sort of convert their cardinal directions to our directions. So they've got 8 directions. So we want this one, this one, this one, and this one. So this is right up, right down, left
down,
left up. And that maps to our, this is, north, east, west, south.
Yes.
So let's find a right up first, and then we'll pull that into this idle position here. These are actually, I think looking at these now, these are all idle. So what we'll do for this, which will be sort of strange, is that we'll use the idle sprites and the movement sprites as like the same sprite. So it might look kind of weird, but that's okay. Not everything has to be perfect. Okay, so we want right up. So we've got, where are we at? Left, down, down, right, down, right, up.
Right. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I'm going to pull this in. Oops. Oh no, do I have to? It like bounces. That's funny. So let's see if we can, let's see how easy this will be to do. So I'm going to copy these. I'm going to try to paste them over here. Oops. That's not so bad.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Oh, I don't like how Ace Sprite like doesn't, I wish it made you like lock perspective. Oops. There we go. So like there, I think.
That looks good.
Yeah. Okay, so that's our idle north. And then
Did you create a new layer?
I did. I was smart about it this time. last time I baked it on the same layers. And now what I'm gonna do, because we know right now that, so this sprite sheet doesn't have, it doesn't differentiate between idle sprites and movement sprites. So what we don't want to happen is that we start moving and we go back to this template or there's nothing there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab these same sprites that we just grabbed here for idle north. And then I'm going to put them over, down, and move north. So now when we're moving north, it will just work. And so what I'm also going to do is I'm going to bring these into Cantata now, just so we can see that they're working, which will be cool. So while I'm doing that, I don't know. Well, I guess I'll talk about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we should just go over a little bit maybe just the broad categories up top, or should we just throw it in?
I think we just throw it in first, then we talk about it.
All right, let's throw
I'm
it
worried
in.
we'll get bogged down in unit mechanics.
Yeah.
So, what should we call our unit?
Necromancer horse.
Necro. Oop.
Paul says, interesting hearing how different codes handle the same thing. You could Necromancer. Oh, I have thought about that. That was almost my username everywhere, Alec. Anyway, Necromancer. Anyway. It was a thought for sure. We called objects on-field interactables in Bolero. I called them things. It's been slightly confusing. Yeah, everything is a thing.
Oh, Bolero Tactics. I know this game. I've seen this on Twitter. Happy to have a fellow tactics developer hanging out. That's great.
I'm gonna have to follow. Things.
Yeah, things is, there's been many iterations. I think you handle interactables because they're interactable. Other people call them objects. I don't know.
There's also the ABLE, like the ABLE naming convention.
What is that?
I was working on a project where everything was ABLE, like mutable, transformable, interactable.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense, I guess. Yeah. Interactable. Yeah, we're sort of there.
Yeah, anything. Yeah.
Yeah, so bringing a unit into the game now is basically as easy. So we've, for reasons I won't go into, I need to add them onto the sort of core mod right now. But basically, modding is literally as easy as like you add a line and then
Necromancer horse.
Neck.
Oh boy.
Rogue Mancer horse.
Oh my god.
Beautiful. All right, and then now all you have to do is pick a sprite. So I'm gonna click pick here, and then I'm gonna go inside of our art, interactables, medieval, and then say here's our thing. And then if I mouse over this, there it is. There's our sprite. That's almost all you have to do to add a new unit to the game. I also need to come in and add some of this other stuff. So I'm going to actually turn off this. So faction, whatever, health, weight, vision range. We give you a set of defaults here that just are sort of like fine. I am going to change this hero sprite index to 1, and we'll talk about this more probably next episode, so just don't worry about all this stuff too much. And then anything else I need to add? I can't remember if I need to add in. I guess I'll just add in these. I guess we do need a move aspect. That's important.
Yeah.
Okay. And then no projects. I think that should work. So now we just basically add a new unit. So now if we load in Cantata, this should appear in the game. Let's see. Skirmish, modding, medieval. And now if we go to Interactables and look at our units and scroll all the way up, there it is. Necromancer horse, ready to go.
Great.
So if I click that and now click here, there it is. Look at that.
Oh, look at it
Animating.
go.
That doesn't look so bad. It's kind of cute.
Yeah. I think it'll move well too.
Yeah.
It's like
So,
the horse is still
medieval. Now I'm going to bounce out and let's see. So again, like no coding. This is like the hardest part of this was like putting the sprite sheet together. Everything else is like, it is like so simple. And this is, I mean, it's super nice for us too in the dev team because it's literally like adding stuff and changing stuff on the fly. It's like very simple. Okay, skirmish, medieval, start. There's our unit. And now if we click it, look at that. And it just works with the system. There's no like recode it to make it work. We added the ability for it to move. It moves, whatever. And I click this and there it goes doing its move. And now it's there.
and look, it's and actually
so
that really works for the move as well. That's a nice way to get around having an idle and a move position.
Just have the same ones.
Or,
Yeah.
like,
Because I think we need a bouncing horse.
Yeah.
It like works a little easy. Cool. Oh, so but you can see I left the other layer on, so we'll clean it up a little bit and put on the other sprites now. But like it's already, I could ship this. I could literally package this up as its own little mod and like upload it to our modding service, and then anyone can use this. That's like all it takes is just new entry, add a sprite, put some data on it, and you're like, Bob's your uncle. Is that here? That's
Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle.
I grew up saying that. And Bob's your uncle. I didn't understand why, but
Hamrick asks, how complex can a unit's attributes get? Very complex.
Very complex.
We'll talk about that next episode, but there's like, what we've tried to do for Cantata is literally make it such that like any value you'd want to set, you can just set from pure data. So in terms of stats, like specifically stat stuff, there's actually not a lot. We have like health, movement range, vision range, but like we don't really even have armor. There is experience. So some of that stuff comes into play, but we really kind of looked at stuff like Advanced Wars and sort of tried to move the tactical complexity outside of like just little numbers on stuff. So there's other things that you can configure a lot more. But that said, adding stuff like armor, resistances, like that stuff is pretty trivial on our end, even if we don't use it in Cantata. So if like a lot of modders are like, we need the ability to add in stats or whatever, we could add that and then you guys can just use it. We don't need to use it. And that's like totally fine with me because it's like very simple.
Totally. But maybe you can just tease by opening up and showing how many things there are to configure.
Sure. So if we look at like I'll look at something else. So if we look at like the Shotar, so aspects, so this is move, attack, and load. So moving is moving. You can adjust the ability to move. Attacking, you have some attack pattern that you can set with the pattern where it can attack. For loading, you can set basically this is the inventory system that we'll talk about more probably 2 videos from now. It'd be hard to imagine getting here, but you can set basically stuff's ability to load or unload. You can also inside of the stats, this is more like the stats area, health, weight, vision range, vision modifier. So if something is on a tile, it changes the vision of that tile. Explore range, sort of related to vision range. If it's attackable or not, how many supply slots it has, if it's flying, terrain flags, and then stuff in regards to how much storage and inventory space it has. Then also there's stuff with projects. So these are things you can like build. So we've got supply lines, buildable interactables, which is basically build stuff on the map, build objectives. So you can have things that you build that add new objectives that have their own completion criteria, and then global supply, which will add supply to stuff. So there's ways to work with this stuff where it's like the sort of possibilities are very endless.
Yeah.
Yeah, small quick tease. Looks like very Game Boy Advance Fire Emblem. Yeah, that sprite definitely puts it right in like Fire Emblem territory. I love it. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna add the other ones in too before I'm just getting excited.
Yeah.
Just doing all
That sounds good.
So what's up? So we have south next. So idle south. So we said south here is left down. So I'm gonna pull up here, left. Female down, female left down. Okay. Once again, we will grab those sprites, paste them.
It's a cute horse.
It's almost like a little deer.
It's kind of cute. Yeah.
Okay.
I like the shadows. It's a nice detail on this spreadsheet.
They look good. South. Okay, now let's do east. We said is right down. Boop. Grab those. Throw them into here. Oops. Oh, whoa. East. All right, and then we've got west, which is left, up, right up, right down, left, up. Okay. It's the most riveting copy and pasting art into a sprite sheet.
Thanks for turning me on to Thoughtseize interviews. They are great. What are the Thoughtseize interviews?
We got someone who listens to Bad End. Hell yeah. Thoughtseize is a stream on Twitch hosted by Cole Smith, I think is his name, of Dive, the band Dive, and Lucas Frank, who is part of a band called Storefront Church. And they play Magic and talk to like other musicians like Phoebe Bridgers and stuff about kind of like just interview them generally, but they interview them while they're playing Magic. So we interviewed them for our podcast. Well, not After School's podcast, this podcast I do called Bad End. And they were on the last episode, I guess, that we did. And yeah, we just hung out with them. They're super cool guys. We had a really great conversation. Their show, they described their show as like Hot Ones, but playing Magic, which is like a great example. Yeah. It'd be fun if they watched the Cantata stream. Yeah, that show is great. Thanks for listening to Bad End too. Much appreciated. Okay, so we've got this sprite basically set up. So I'm going to save this again, and then we don't actually need to change anything from the data, which is really nice. So now that we've saved this, when this is loaded in Cantata, it will just load in the most recent version. So I can just literally go back here. And other cool thing, we don't need to like re-add it to the map. The data just sort of happens. So
yeah, and that's because the uploading, when you're uploading the sprite sheet, is actually just a reference.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yep, it's just a reference to the sheet, so
So
whatever's in the
nice.
sheet can be whatever. So I can even just load it straight into this map here, and we should see that, yep, there we go. Look at it.
There it is.
And now I can do
Okay,
all the
yeah.
different movement stuff. So if I click this and I click over here, it will do its, yeah, look at that.
Beautiful.
Just that easy. That's great. So all the
It's very
directions work,
satisfying.
everything like that works. And then like you've got a unit in your game and you could like configure that. You could like do whatever else. I might just add in a few more. I don't know if you want to talk about some other stuff. I'm just going to pull some sprites in. But I know there's anything that you wanted to bring up with this specific system.
Um, I don't know. I mean, the possibilities are endless, and it's been really exciting to work and also test with
Yeah.
all of these units because it's really easy to change and configure and um, honestly to have the integration with the artist's work is great. I sometimes just open up the game and there's new stuff, which is a delight for me.
There's no
Like,
like you don't need
oh,
to
there's
change anything.
yeah, exactly. It's really awesome. I think if it's easy for the devs, it's going to be easy for, well, since this is all art and a bunch of other stuff, I think it's going to be easy for everyone to get a hold of. And um, I don't know, it's really exciting. Um, I want to see what people are thinking on the forums, perhaps. Um, what are you adding next?
I found so we've got our necromancers. So what better than a white knight to try to attack the necromancer?
Oh yeah,
Um,
this is going to be great.
yeah. So
Um,
I'm just pulling in. Uh, let's
yeah, I
see.
mean
I've
that
got
that'll get into a little bit of the unit mechanics, which will be exciting. Just a touch.
just a
Um,
little touch.
just a touch. Um, I don't so much touch a lot of this part, but I do a lot of configuration
Yeah, Rogue has been
with
on.
Depot.
Yeah, just doing a lot of the. Actually, let me. I guess yeah. You want to talk a little bit about what you've been working on recently while I pull some of this stuff in?
Yeah, yeah. So right now, we are adding this loading and storage system, which the possibilities will be pretty endless, I think, once we finally get that in, because storage is decoupled from the ability to load and unload. Um, you'll be able to load things from the map based on certain requirements. Like this horse might not be able to load another horse, but you could load something else. We have, gunships that could load other ground units. You really anything is possible. You can also load items from your storage to another unit's storage. Um,
Yeah, that one's really big. I think that one that's like one of my most favorite things because I don't think that any tactics game has really done that, which is literally having the ability for something to like imagine in Advanced Wars you had an APC that loaded a unit that you could unload that unit from the APC into like another APC. In Advanced Wars, for example, you have to place it on the map and then that APC has to grab it from the map. And in Cantata, you can literally just like sort of transfer stuff between units, which is also important because I don't know, you want to talk about the AP costs of that as well?
yeah, I mean, what we're doing with AP costs is pretty much anything will cost AP, and we're not going to limit what you can do per turn. Uh, that'll be nice because if you want to spend your entire turn just transferring items from units to units, you can do that. You don't have to move, you don't have to do anything. We're not going to tell you what to do. You're just limited by I have 10 AP, and each time I transfer a unit, it might cost one or two, depending on the unit. Perhaps larger units are going to cost more to load and unload. I think that's how we'll do it. But what you could also do is loading and unloading, if you're configuring, could cost nothing. That's also a possibility, and it's just free to load and unload.
Yeah.
Um,
That was sort of the reason too that we added the ability for things to unload into other things because we don't want to make it where you pay the AP cost to unload something, and then you have to pay the AP cost additionally to load it into that thing. So because there's costs associated with those, we wanted to make it where it's like, well, if you're trying to just put it in something, you should only pay the cost once, which is nice.
Yeah. Advance Wars is the main touchstone for Cantata. Are there other games we reference? I think Advance Wars has kind of been the main, most vocal one. Right, Kyle?
Yeah, I would say like Advance Wars is sort of a big one. It's definitely like I think like philosophically Advance Wars, like where the game, as you can tell even just from us playing it, is not it's like it doesn't work at the same small scale of Advance Wars, but what we've done is really like taken what I would consider the philosophy of Advance Wars. So sort of like really tactile and tactical, but like this feeling of immediacy, and apply the sort of like framework of Advance Wars to a larger strategic game. So we have stuff like supply lines, but they're not like Hearts of Iron supply lines. They're like pretty easy to understand. You can like build stuff and it uses sort of like resources, but it's not so complicated. Like I sort of think of Cantata existing between this, if you imagine a spectrum between like Advance Wars and like Europa Universalis 4, like Cantata sort of falls in this middle area where it feels like Advance Wars to play, even though at the same time you're working at a much larger scale. So you're actually like building a base, connecting supply lines, building units on the map, exploring a map. Like there's this whole dimension of exploration that Cantata has that like no other tactics game has, like because it's not about that. It's about sort of smaller scale combat, whereas Cantata is much more about like, oh, you might not discover everything on the map in a given turn or in a given like playthrough, and you might need to go back and find other stuff. So in some ways it's like kind of similar to like Hearts of Iron, Heroes of Might and Magic, even, where you're moving around. There's like loose objectives, but you're sort of discovering stuff at the same time. So we're hoping that it's a sort of a fun space to be in. And like the fact it's turn-based makes it so it doesn't have like this, it doesn't feel as like pressured as something like a real-time strategy game that might do something similar. It's more like, in terms of references, right? We're looking at stuff like Civilization, obviously, but also even like SimCity, but I think the philosophical core is still very much rooted in something like Advance Wars, where it's like, how can we take these systems that are part of larger strategic games, but make them like way more palatable and sort of easier to understand, but still have a certain level of tactical depth? That's kind of the idea with Cantata. And part two, because like, I mean, Paul, you're working on Bolero tactics, stuff like that, like Tenderfoot tactics. They're working in a different space that we're sort of adjacent to, but we're not trying to make like the best, 8x8 grid tactics game. Those things will emerge from things that can happen in Cantata. We talked last stream about like terrain weights and capacities, so you can like block stuff off and you can have interesting tactical encounters, but also there's like, you're doing exploration sometimes. You're not always fighting all the time, which is not the case for most tactics games, where in tactics games all the time, basically, every encounter is a battle. So there's a sort of like ebb and flow of playing a match of Cantata where sometimes you're fighting, sometimes you're just exploring, sometimes you're building, and all that stuff ties to the system of AP because, if you've got 10 AP and you're fighting a battle, you have to choose to say, do I want to spend all my AP this turn using my units to fight? Or do I need to actually go back to my base and build this next building, which will mean I can't do this other attack at the front line right now because I'm using, this my limited resource. So I just said a lot. I don't know if you want to add anything.
You do such a good job of
I've only been working on this game for 5 years, so I think about it all the time.
Yeah, it's great how you're able to put it in context with a bunch of other games. Yeah, I don't have much more to add. But I do think what's interesting about Cantata is how seamless it is to go from one mechanic of I'm spending all my time building to I'm just going to explore everything and just do a broad sweep of the map, to suddenly when you have to pay attention to a battle that you're in, you're zooming in on the map and suddenly you have this intimate experience with
Right.
trying to eliminate enemies. Um,
It's,
and
yeah,
I think it all works pretty seamlessly. Uh,
and I think what's nice about Cantata is that you can kind of like choose your battles in this way where because the maps are so big, right? Like this is like a smaller map. It's sort of hard to read on the Twitch stream, I recognize, but like this is the edge of the map over here. So I mean, even just like looking at this map, right? Like most tactics games are like, I don't know, like 20 by 20. That's like basically this area right here. And Cantata is like all this other stuff. And this is a small map. We can make bigger maps. Um, so it's like the tactical space of the game is much bigger. And like so you're sort of you might always be fighting, but it's not this like very intense encounter where, you know, you're sort of the arc of a tactics game typically is that you're always fighting and then eventually someone loses. There's not really arcs of combat to it. Whereas Cantata, like some things will start small, but then like all of a sudden this area you're fighting over becomes a really big tactical battle and you're pushing a ton of units there. But we don't decide for you that that's where that encounter is going to be. That's sort of up to a lot of other like emergent things that might happen on the map that makes it so that when you get there, like, oh, now all of a sudden this map that I was just sort of moving and exploring across becomes this tactical space, which I think is really sort of compelling. And it's just different too, right? Like a lot of tactics games have done a lot of the same stuff for a long time. We're just like, can we try something different? Let's just try and see if this works. And it seems to be cool. I enjoy it.
yeah, yeah, and FFT stuck to 16 by 16. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a. Well, I think we're looking at the visible tiles here. What, maybe 20, maybe 15 by 15?
Yeah, even just right here is like that's basically this is Final Fantasy Tactics happens in like this very small section of the Cantata map. I also just finished this other sprite, so I'm just going to show you once again. Imagine I have this sprite. I will show you how easy it is to put a unit in the game. You like add a line. We'll call it the White Knight, which is just a funny name. And I'll add the sprite here. So I'll pick this art, interactables, medieval. Boop. So now they're there. And I have to add in info here for them. Give them the ability to move. And
Basic.
yeah. And now I will reload the game and we'll have our White Knight able to be inside the game. Modding, medieval. So now go over here.
Did you change the faction?
Oh no, it's adding stuff. Yeah, it defaults the right one. Doop.
But do you have to,
Oh.
or is that not even that upper right? That's you've already yanked that out, right?
Which thing?
The 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, this one?
Under the safe scenario, the robot human environment.
Oh yeah, it defaults to the
It's already been
robot
yanked
faction.
out.
Oh yeah, they can't attack right now because they're on the same faction.
Yeah.
But the unit's in, and if I reload my game, I saved it on the map, and I load up the skirmish, I should be able to. Doop. Look at them. There they go.
Hey.
It's like that easy. I can't enforce how simple it is to like pull stuff in.
Yeah, if you weren't paying attention for 10 seconds, like
yeah,
I
blinking you would have missed
wasn't.
it. And then I mean I'm also just adding one, but there's no reason I can't add like maybe we're building some scenario where I've accidentally added all these other. It's hilarious. So I've got this rogue here, but you can imagine that maybe I've got some army of people chasing it, so I could add a few more in here. And then I'll load the map up. And there they all are. So maybe like the necromancer is like trying to run away, and then like these people are all like following them or something.
spend all your AP just chasing this one really fast unit. Um,
Yeah. I actually wonder too, it could be interesting. I don't really want to do it yet because it might take a little bit of time, but I could even imagine some scenario where you actually keep those 16 by 16 sprites and you use the 64 by 64 sprites to build bigger worlds for those smaller sprites. So like we made these sprites bigger to sort of match the
mhm.
quote unquote scale of things, but you could also keep those sprites small and um,
Oh yeah,
like have them be small on the map, which could be like cute. I don't know if you want to build like a
could
Polly
be.
Pocket style map. Um, yeah, that's importing units. It's like it's that simple. It's very similar like we did for the terrain stuff. You basically slice up a sprite sheet and you add it to the like data file for the game, and then it just loads it in. And it
Yeah.
slices it all for you. You don't need to provide like additional files or anything. As long as you're in that format, that's fine. I will try to do one thing real fast. We'll just try to do
Yeah.
attacking.
And I'll
So
I'll try to answer. Is AP shared by team? So uh, when you're just playing without a team, you use AP like as the player. But for a team, I do believe so. Or does
it's per
actually
player.
it's per player.
Yeah.
Per player.
I'm gonna delete this real fast. Okay, save that. And also AP is something that when you're playing a match, you can as units are killing other units and exploring and stuff, they'll gain experience, and some of that experience will get like your player character will basically gain that experience over time, and then you'll level up across the course of playing a given campaign map, and as you level up you will get more AP. So when you're starting a match, you might start out with only like 10 AP or something, but at the very end, you might have like 30, 40 AP. And the idea is to sort of simulate this idea that as like a commanding officer or someone playing, you have a limited decision space. So what you're choosing to do on a given turn is sort of it's important decision. You can't just do everything. That specifically is something that often bogs down, especially turn-based games, but also like more 4X type stuff, where when you're like later on in the game, everybody can do everything, so every turn takes forever. We've sort of like lopping that off and saying that you have a certain essentially action resource pool that you can use, and when you're working with that, you need to choose what you're going to do. If that means that you want to move all of your units on one turn, like that's fine, but that will be your turn. So yeah, per player. Okay, I'm going to change the team the Necromancer is on. So I'll just put them on the alien faction for now. And I will do one other thing, which will be very silly, is I'm going to add in attacking sprites for these, but they'll be very stupid. Okay, so what's nice is I can just copy these. Oops. So I'm going to copy these sprites here and paste them down into the attack. And what I'll also do is I'm going to make it so they're attacking, which will just be like, oops.
Like a
Roar.
spear.
Just like spear.
Nice.
Oh, I should do this on a different
You're
layer.
truly an artist, Kyle.
Thank you. I don't want to totally mess up our sprite sheet. All right, so that one got into the other one. So what this will do is we're going to add an attack ability for this unit. And then we'll be able to tell that they're attacking because we'll see this beautiful red arrow.
Spear.
It's their spear. Lance?
Lance.
That's their lance. Okay, so I'm gonna save this. Yep, and
That
then
looks
I
legit.
do need to change some little code here. So data. So inside of their aspects here, I'm going to give them the ability to attack. 1 damage, sure. AP cost 1. Their pattern, it defaults to where they occupy the middle square. So then the the attack pattern position is relative to that middle square. So this basically means that they can attack essentially adjacent to themselves. I'll save that.
Nice, easy way to configure melee versus ranged units.
Or if we want to make this a range unit, we could just literally change the attacking squares to like be outside of that range.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. So I'm gonna go back here. And so what I'm going to do now, I actually don't even need to change those units. The ones that are already on the map now just have that functionality. The only thing I need to do is, because I changed the faction of the rogue, or the necro rogue that was placed down.
That was you.
That
was Alec.
I added them to the wrong faction. I need to add them to the human faction.
Reminds me of, I never can say this, Valkyria
Chronicles.
Valkyria.
Yes. Valkyria Chronicles is lovely game. All right, modding, medieval. Oh, we also got Kupanik is hanging out in the YouTube chat. Thanks for stopping by.
Hey.
He says that's beautiful, or they say it's beautiful. I don't know what's beautiful, but I'm glad that something in this game is beautiful to you. Okay, so now I have my unit. So my human faction here, I'll place them there. So now this faction is fighting this faction, so I can actually attack them. Sorry, Rogue. The White Knights are coming for you.
Will they catch me? I don't want them to. But for the sake of the stream, I guess I'll sacrifice myself.
You might blow up when you die. I think the default... we'll see. That would actually
default
be really
death
funny.
animation?
Yeah, I think it's blowing up. Oh, this is interesting. Okay, so this is a great example of the systems. So do you want to explain what's going on right now?
Yeah. All right. So right now, what we're doing, or what we're seeing, is these white knights have a specific vision range that they can see, and a specific explore range. So those lighter tiles, can you hover over the medium? The lightest tiles are what you can see. The explorable tiles are what is that ring outside of what you can definitely see. And then beyond that, we have no vision whatsoever. Right now, the enemy, the opponent, their interactable, their unit, is sitting somewhere in it could be either the explorable range. I can't remember if we see them in the do we see enemies in the explorable range?
No.
Can't remember. No. Okay. So we don't know where the necromancer is. They could be in one of those lighter tiles, and they could also be in one of those darker tiles. We don't know until we get closer. So perhaps let's maybe move one unit a little bit and see if we can explore further. Enemy spotted.
Oh yeah, even pops up here.
Enemy spotted. Yeah. Don't know if you got lucky there, but now what's interesting is we've found ourselves in this encounter. If the map was more constrained, then you'd get into that small scale tactical attack situation, which is kind of what we're in right now. But yeah, now we're within range to attack based on the attack pattern, which you can see kind of hoverable right there. It looks like we can't actually attack because it's diagonal.
Yeah, we'll be like, it's right. It's like right close enough.
It's right, yeah.
We'll just move it close. We'll move some knights closer so they can be moved.
Yeah, to surround it. But yeah, that was fun. So also, it's interesting how.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, after you.
You cannot move into tiles that are only explored. So this is like, it's sort of a concession we've made for action resolution stuff. So we don't want it to be where you basically try to move into a range that's just explored, not actually visible. Because I've played a lot of games where like imagine that this unit can like move all the way over here. If like, because it's a tactics game, right? Like position sort of matters, attack ranges sort of matter. If you're moving to a specific location, you're sort of building other decisions off of that. And what I don't want to happen is that you try to move into a place that's not actually visible yet. And then like imagine there's an enemy unit both here and here. We then have to decide like, oh, well, you've got to sort of stop your movement at some point along that path. So that means that you would have to like kick you out to some adjacent square. And like, that just gets sort of messy. It might not be so bad in Cantata because you have other action points or whatever, but I just don't like this notion of like a game sort of indeterministically kicking you to a different tile, especially when if you have a limited action pool, you're expecting to go somewhere. So what we've done is say like, basically you can only move where you can see. And then what we've also done from the gameplay perspective, at least for Cantata, you could totally change this in your mods. We've made it so most units vision range, or actually maybe all units' vision range is greater than or equal to their movement range. So it's you're never actually gonna be in a situation really where you like could potentially move somewhere outside of your vision range. So every unit in the Cantata by default can basically see further that they can move. So you won't ever actually run into a scenario where you feel like you should be able to move into there, which I think is nice.
Okay, we've got comments on two streams,
Oh,
and I almost like this this conversation that can happen between YouTube and Twitch. Kupanik says, "I love Valkyria Chronicles 2, a great franchise. I hope they make another one, but the sales numbers were not that great, unfortunately." And then also cannot wait to see our red spears in action.
Oh, that was beautiful. It's our beautiful art.
Yes. And yeah, interesting take on the fog of war mechanics. I think it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. And Paul says, yeah, Fire Emblem abruptly ends your movement if your path is obstructed in the fog of war.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that's sort of that. Yeah, that's exactly what I don't want to do, because it can feel overly punishing, basically, where you're in like good faith trying to do something. Because what happens in practice, right, in something like Fire Emblem is that it makes you not want to move into fog that much, or you do it like very sparingly. So we're just like, whatever, don't worry about it. Like the map, you'll never feel constrained by your vision necessarily, unless it's some position where you're inside, like, terrain like forest or something where your vision range is reduced. But then that will feel like that makes sense. So we will never kick you out of a position or stop your movement if you run into something. Yeah, so I think I've ended the turn, so our AP is back, but also we're now in range. So let's do some attacks. So if I move this unit here, so now I'm adjacent, and if I click this, we'll see our spear pop up. Boop.
Nice.
And because this recent change, what's the change?
Oh, so the change is now you can move and attack more than once per turn.
Yes.
This is a change that has been recently implemented because before Cantata was following the ethos of a lot of other strategy games, which is each unit has like one ability to move or attack per turn, and we wanted to eliminate that because we don't want to constrain any player if what they want to do is just to attack. It's a choice that you can make. And yeah, I think anything else, Kyle?
I mean, the decision was sort of made in part where, I think one thing that we did when we started making Cantata is that a lot of the mechanics that we had were just like tactics game mechanics. We just like sort of ported them over and we're like, we're making a tactics game. But then as Cantata has sort of grown into its own, you sort of realize what it is and how you play it. And like in a game like Advance Wars, Final Fantasy Tactics, whatever, you don't have an action economy. Your action economy is basically units can move and attack once per turn, more or less. And stuff like Advance Wars, where I guess like in Advance Wars 1, Eagle's CO power allows you to move everything again. is like overpowered because the game's balanced such that units can only move and attack once per turn. So getting an additional attack is like a huge thing. In Cantata, attacking can be a huge thing, but you're doing that at the expense of not doing other stuff. So right now, these units, we just set them that their attack costs 1 AP. But for things that have really strong attacks, we can make those attacks cost more. We can make movement cost more. So maybe you want to move one unit 4 times in one turn, but that means that if that unit's movement cost is 2 and you've only got 10 AP, it means that you've only got 2 AP left to do anything. So like that, you chose to do that your turn, and we don't want to prevent you from doing that, but also like no individual unit in Cantata will be so strong that doing that choice is like always the right choice. Even if you've got like some really big weapon that can attack stuff for like 10 damage, which would be a lot of damage in Cantata, that might cost 5 AP, 6 AP. So if you're potentially under fire from like a lot of other units, doing that attack might be a good thing, but also you're doing that at the expense of like not moving other units to the front line, not building stuff in your base, not doing whatever else. So we've got the AP system, we've really weaved through all of these things where it allows us to sort of break outside of what is the typical tactics mold, and hope to do something sort of different, which is, I think is cool. And a lot of that burden is on us to make sure those things are balanced. So, we don't want to give any unit or player some unit that's like really strong attack, no cost, really far movement cost, and you just build a lot of those. We don't want that to happen. We want the decision space to be a little more heady, where you're making decisions about what actions to take, but we're not limiting you explicitly to say like you can only move once per turn, because you might not want to. You might want to move. You might have a turn where you're just trying to move 4 units to the other side of the map to go explore something, and we don't want to make you spend 4 turns just to do that. That's like not. That's not exciting. That's not interesting gameplay.
I love this. Kupnik. It's really like VC, which has a similar action point pool system.
Yeah.
Paul says I never ever used my tank because it took 2 AP.
Yeah, I think the idea is to make stuff be like, I don't remember if in Valkyria you can this rogue is, it's gonna attack us actually. Oh no,
Yeah.
it has no attack ability.
Oh yeah, you made it a defense. Why'd you make me defenseless, Kyle?
I'm sorry.
Goodness.
I'm sorry. I don't remember if in Valkyria if you gain more AP. I think that was sort of like the missing piece of a lot of these systems, is that they don't let you level up. So like a good example of this as well in terms of narrative, right, is that I also love how we've been tricked into talking about unit mechanics now. Fully outside the scope of what we want to talk about. But like, if really early on, if you happen to build like your big weapon or whatever, and it takes 5 AP to attack and you've only got 10 AP, you can only use that weapon twice per turn, and that's all you're doing. However, if you're playing more of that match and you're leveling up, you might get to like 20, 25, 30 AP. So you have the ability to use this big weapon more because your like experience as a CO is better, or you can like fire that and do that, not with the expense of also not being able to manage your base. So again, it's a sort of like systemic push-pull that allows you to, we hope, make a more interesting game. All right, I'm gonna see if I can take out this rogue. All right, okay, so this is the last attack. We'll see if it explodes. We'll move someone else over here. So
yeah, attack from every angle. See that spear.
Boom. Explosion.
Nice.
But yeah, so those all the attack, right? Again, no programming, no like none of that stuff. It's all just data. It's visual. You're not even opening up a JSON file. It just goes right in. And we had a little medieval battle with our lances and necromancers. Sorry,
yeah.
Rogue.
It's all good. It's all good.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything else really to talk about with importing units. Unless anyone in the chat has any sort of specific questions about that. Also, we'll post this video on our forums once it's live on YouTube. So if you have comments about that, feel free to add them there. We can talk more about importing sprites, all that stuff. And then The other nice thing too is just worth saying is that we will have some system in place in the game where you can share mods online, as well as download them inside the game. So if you make a mod and upload it, anyone can use that. You can also just send, if you want to just send the mod to someone else, via email or whatever, that's also totally possible. Because the mods are basically just like, it's essentially it's a zip file. It's like a piece of art and some data, and that's all you need. No, like, this is a whole different conversation, but you don't have to like use Unity. You don't have to like open up and learn how to do Unity asset bundles and all that stuff. That don't happen here. So
I think it's also worth saying, we mentioned it when we were importing terrain sprites, but pay attention to the licensing if you're finding stuff online. And make sure that it's within proper licensing.
Yeah, some people don't want you to distribute their games, or they don't want you to distribute like assets outside of the context of something. So I don't remember what the license was for these sprites, but some people are like, don't use these in commercial products, only use these if the source code is available, blah blah blah. So if you are using sprites from sources online, definitely make sure that this stuff works the license, because we want, artists should get paid and recognized for their work. Paul Myers in chat asks, are you making campaign or is it procedural content? Cantata's campaigns are all hand authored. So there are 9 commanding officers in the game. And each one has their own campaign mission attached. We call them campaigns. They're basically like single maps, but a given map in Cantata, because they can be really large, can take anywhere from like 1 to 3 hours, maybe more, to play through. So they're not little small things. So the whole game itself, we're targeting like, I don't know, 10 to like 25 hours of play, hopefully, maybe more, just with campaigns. There is also multiplayer that sort of works with a skirmish mode. So skirmish mode can be both sort of hand-authored maps like we have here, that you can just play on maps that people have played against, play that. But we're also sort of like tossing over in our minds some sort of like procedural skirmish thing that you can just sort of play on, more like a 4X or whatever. That is sort of like further away. That would be something that we might come sort of post-release, because the emphasis right now is very much on sort of handcrafted content for the game. We're not just trying to make like a Civilization style thing, but the system does support that, so we could do that in the future, especially if people really want it. Campaigns are all hand authored, and the
narrative is really important.
We've not been talking about it a lot, but it is very much so.
I won't say much, but I'm very excited about the narrative.
Yeah, the narrative stuff is, we'll hopefully learn more in the future. But it's not medieval. I mean, let's look at this. What's even going on with these? What is that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap up the stream. Thank you all.
Yeah, I think so.
For joining. Again, you can find the game if you've just tuned in. You can find us on Steam. It's called Cantata. Just look it up. Wish listing is super nice. That helps people find out about the game. All of that stuff. Additionally, like we mentioned, our forums. We'll post the video stream archive of this video on our forums. So if you have other comments about it, here would be a great place to discuss it. Obviously, let's also be on YouTube. So if you have comments, you can also add them on YouTube, which is totally fine. But yeah, we'll do, the next stream will be in 2 weeks. We'll talk more about specifically, actual unit mechanics that everyone wants to know about. We want to do this part first to show you how to get custom stuff in. We can talk to you more about tweaking that and all the system stuff that happens with units, and buildings too, not just units, just interactables generally. Yeah. So, thank you everyone for hanging out. I can't believe it's already been an hour and a half.
Yeah. All right. Super fun. Yeah. Great. Thanks everyone.
All right. Talk to you all next stream.